Hi, welcome to Fiction Fingers Fairy Channel. Please subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories, and don't forget to like and share this video. Thank you. Growing up as an only child, Shawn's childhood was marked by the absence of a complete family unit. After his mother's infidelity shattered their home, Shawn found himself living alone with his father, grappling with the emotional fallout of their broken family. The memories of the final confrontation between his parents remained vivid in Shawn's mind, a painful reminder of the betrayal that tore their family apart. "I can't believe you would do this to me, Maria," Shawn's father exclaimed, his voice filled with a mixture of anger and hurt as he confronted his wife about her infidelity. Maria, Shawn's mother, hung her head in shame, unable to meet her husband's gaze. "I'm sorry, Jack, I never meant to hurt you," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the tumult of emotions. The air crackled with tension as Shawn stood frozen in the doorway, a silent witness to the unraveling of his parents' marriage. His heart ached with a sense of helplessness, torn between his love for both his mother and father. As the argument escalated, Shawn's father's anger boiled over, his words laced with bitterness and betrayal. "You've destroyed our family, Maria," he spat, his voice thick with emotion. "I am sorry, Jack, but I love him," Maria uttered, her voice filled with a mixture of guilt and defiance as she made her confession to Shawn's father. With a heavy heart, she lifted her luggage bag and headed towards the door, her resolve unwavering despite the pain she was causing. Shawn stood frozen in the doorway, his heart breaking as he watched his mother leave without so much as a backward glance. Tears welled up in his eyes, but he remained silent, unable to find the words to express the turmoil raging within him. As Maria's footsteps faded away, the silence in the house became deafening, punctuated only by the sound of Shawn's muffled sobs. He felt a profound sense of loss and abandonment, grappling with the reality of his mother's departure and the shattered remnants of their family. For Shawn, the departure of his mother marked the beginning of a new chapter, filled with uncertainty and grief. He struggled to come to terms with the betrayal and abandonment he felt, grappling with feelings of anger, sadness, and confusion. Since then, Shawn's father, Jack, had become a somber figure in their household. His life consisted of little more than going to work and returning home, retreating to the solitude of his room. Rarely did Jack engage in conversation with his son Shawn. The once vibrant and lively atmosphere in their home had been replaced by an oppressive silence, leaving Shawn feeling isolated and adrift. As Shawn observed his father's withdrawal into himself, he found himself at a loss for words. The sight of Jack's despondency weighed heavily on Shawn's heart, but he couldn't bring himself to break the silence that had settled between them. In moments of solitude, Shawn would retreat to his own thoughts, grappling with the complexities of their strained relationship. "Why won't he talk to me?" Shawn would murmur to himself, his voice tinged with frustration and sadness. "Doesn't he know how much I miss him?" Despite his longing for connection, Shawn couldn't muster the courage to initiate a conversation with his father. The fear of rejection and the uncertainty of how to bridge the gap between them held him back, leaving him feeling helpless and alone. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the distance between Shawn and his father only seemed to grow. Their once close bond had eroded, replaced by an unspoken tension that hung heavy in the air. In moments of vulnerability, Shawn would find himself yearning for his father's guidance and support, longing for the warmth of his presence. But Jack remained closed off, his emotions guarded behind a facade of stoicism. In school, Shawn withdrew into himself, eschewing social interactions with his peers. He spent most of his time immersed in his studies, finding solace in the familiarity of books and academics. Despite the bustling activity around him, Shawn remained distant and aloof, his silence speaking volumes about the inner turmoil he grappled with. "Hey Shawn, what's up?" Ricky, Shawn's closest friend, would inquire with a friendly smile as he approached Shawn during lunch break. Shawn would offer a small nod in response, his eyes fixed on his textbooks as he buried himself deeper into his studies. Ricky, undeterred by Shawn's reserved demeanor, would take a seat beside him, striking up a conversation in an attempt to break through Shawn's walls. "You've been spending a lot of time studying lately," Ricky would observe, his tone gentle and understanding. "Is everything okay?" Shawn would hesitate for a moment before offering a faint smile, his guard momentarily lowered in Ricky's presence. "Just trying to stay focused," he would reply, his voice quiet but tinged with gratitude for Ricky's concern. Ricky would nod in understanding, offering Shawn a reassuring pat on the back. "Well, if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here for you, buddy," Ricky would assure him, his unwavering support a beacon of light in Shawn's otherwise solitary existence. Shawn's reserved demeanor persisted even as he entered college, where he continued to keep to himself, focusing solely on his studies. Fortunately, Ricky enrolled in the same college as Shawn, providing a familiar presence in Shawn's otherwise solitary journey. However, despite Ricky's companionship, Shawn's quiet nature often led others to misconstrue his behavior. Many of their classmates mistakenly labeled Shawn as arrogant or aloof, unaware of the internal struggles he grappled with. "Hey Shawn, why do you always keep to yourself?" Ricky would inquire one day, noticing the growing distance between Shawn and their peers. Shawn would offer a shrug in response, his eyes cast downward as he struggled to articulate his feelings. Ricky would furrow his brow in concern, sensing the weight of Shawn's loneliness. "You know, Shawn, people think you're stuck up because you don't talk much," Ricky would gently point out, his tone laced with empathy. Shawn would let out a sigh, his shoulders slumping under the weight of misjudgment. "I'm not trying to be, Ricky," he would murmur, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just find it hard to connect with others." Ricky would nod in understanding, reaching out to offer Shawn a reassuring pat on the back. "I get it, man. But you should know that there are people who genuinely want to get to know you," Ricky would assure him, his unwavering support a source of comfort for Shawn. Occasionally, Shawn found himself reminiscing about his mother, Maria. However, the feelings of longing he once harbored towards Maria had morphed into bitterness and resentment. Shawn couldn't fathom how his mother could abandon him solely for the love of another man. The mere thought of Maria's departure stirred up a whirlwind of conflicting emotions within Shawn, leaving him grappling with a deep sense of betrayal and abandonment. "Why did you leave, Mom?" Shawn would mutter to himself, his voice tinged with anger and hurt as he wrestled with his inner turmoil. Was your love for him worth more than your love for me? The memories of their fractured family and Maria's betrayal haunted Shawn, serving as a constant reminder of the pain he had endured. He couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that gnawed at him, the wounds of his mother's departure still raw and unhealed. In moments of solitude, Shawn would find himself consumed by a whirlwind of emotions, torn between the love he once felt for his mother and the anger he now harbored towards her. The dichotomy of his feelings left him feeling adrift, unable to reconcile the conflicting emotions raging within him. At home, the relationship between Shawn and his father remained strained, with an undeniable sense of distance lingering between them. They inhabited the same space under the same roof, yet their interactions resembled those of strangers rather than family. Shawn's father continued to be lost in his thoughts, his somber demeanor casting a shadow over their household. Conversations between them were limited to matters of necessity, with Shawn's father often responding with no more than a word or two. Despite his efforts to bridge the gap between them, Shawn found himself met with a wall of silence from his father, leaving him feeling isolated and alone in his own home. The absence of meaningful communication only served to deepen the chasm that had formed between them, leaving Shawn yearning for a connection that seemed increasingly out of reach. After years of living in such a manner, Shawn had become someone who found it difficult to express his feelings. He often struggled to find the right words to articulate what he was experiencing internally. It wasn't that he lacked emotions, rather, it was the challenge of translating those emotions into words that eluded him. This difficulty in verbalizing his feelings left Shawn feeling frustrated and misunderstood, as he grappled with a sense of isolation in his struggle to convey his innermost thoughts and emotions. "Why is it so hard to just say what I feel?" Shawn would mumble to himself, his voice tinged with frustration as he attempted to make sense of his internal turmoil. "Why can't I find the right words?" Despite his best efforts, Shawn found himself at a loss when it came to expressing himself verbally. He often resorted to silence, preferring to keep his emotions bottled up rather than risk saying the wrong thing or being misunderstood. This reluctance to open up only served to deepen the sense of disconnect between Shawn and those around him, leaving him feeling even more isolated and alone in his struggle. In college, Shawn found it challenging to participate in group activities. His difficulty in expressing himself extended to social situations, where he often felt overwhelmed by the prospect of interacting with others. Unlike his peers who effortlessly engaged in group discussions and activities, Shawn struggled to find his voice amidst the clamor of collective voices. This reluctance to participate left him feeling isolated and disconnected from his classmates, as he grappled with a sense of inadequacy in social settings. Fortunately, Shawn had Ricky by his side, who often stepped in to advocate on his behalf in group settings. Ricky's outgoing and confident demeanor made him a natural spokesperson, and he willingly took on the role of Shawn's voice when needed. "Thanks, Ricky," Shawn would silently express his gratitude, his voice a whisper in the recesses of his mind. "I don't know what I would do without you," to be continued. To be